Hi Guy, with picking up a retro gaming PC just the other day, which is going fantastic, I might add. I thought I'd have a bit of a look back over how I first got into PCs and where it all began, because, I mean, for me, it must have been the early 90s, so probably about 91, 92. And I used to go around to a friend's house, and his father was a university professor who taught IT. And one of the things he had at the time was a really ancient 386, which he bought via work. And I think it was Windows 3.1 and DOS, and all the games and stuff you play at the time were just a mix between the both of them. He was quite clever, so he'd set up all sorts of menus and interfaces to work via DOS, and you could turn it on, load up this fancy menu, pick a game, it'd all load instantly. I mean, at the time, I had nothing even similar to that. The closest I'd even been to a computer was a ZX Spectrum, and that was more of a plain old game loading machine than an actual computer. And so I sort of, I was constantly going around there, which sounds terrible, and he was my best mate for ages, but the number of times I'd just end up turning up there in the morning and spend the entire day, or go around there in the evening, and he'd be on it for hours and hours. And at first he had, simple things like just Microsoft Golf. I think it was just called Golf at first, which we strangely used to have like all these competitions on, and invite people round, and it was just another pair of hands. And I've actually replayed it recently, and it's a bloody good game. It's a hell of a lot of fun, which for the time was quite surprising. Anyways, as it went on a bit further, he upgraded the machine slightly, and then he ended up picking up Day of the Tentacle, which I'd never really experienced before, and loading it up on this, I think it was aging PC by then, unless he bought another one, but I'd spend ages and ages. I was becoming obsessed with it, and back at home by this point, I'd picked up an Amiga, and I always felt that the Amiga looked better, but there was just something about the actual PC side which was just a lot more complicated. It was more hands-on, having to deal with auto-exec backfiles and all the rest of it. It really intrigued me, and the fact that you had the decent side hard drive and stuff really caught my mind at the time. I mean, to this day, I work in IT, and I think that's partially to blame. So anyways, time went on, and I was playing more and more of these ancient games. One that really stuck out to me, which I became absolutely obsessed with was Wolfenstein and Duke Nukem, which he had both of them. And they were only Wolfenstein was the shareware version, which would play to death, but he ended up with a full copy of Duke Nukem, and I absolutely loved it. And anyway, that's much off to the side. But as time started going on, it must have been about 94, 95. Sorry, I can't remember exact dates. I was desperate to have something at home, because I couldn't keep going around this poor lad's house and pestering his dad so I can play on his computer, which was what mainly was happening. So I started saving, and this is the mid-90s, when PCs at the time cost, £400 or £500, which in today's money, I don't know what it is, but it's probably like 900 or a grand. It's an absolute fortune. So I was struggling for about a year. I was doing all sorts of part-time jobs, washing cars, doing paper rounds, all that, trying to scramble some money together. And my parents realised what I was doing after about 6 months of that, and I think I only had about maybe 250 quid, and they were quite impressed. I managed to get all this money, and they realised, and then my dad says, I'll give you 70 quid towards it, because you're spending all this time, and we'll call it. And I think it was an early birthday present at the time. I was chuffed a bit, because I now had a nice big chunk of cash, and I could start browsing. It was the Loot, or the newspapers for listed ads. And then eventually, I think I saw it was a 486 DX2, which had a 66 megahertz processor, and I couldn't wait at the time to buy something like that. And it was off in 2 towns over. It was quite a distance actually at the time, but when my father dealt with it, because I was still just a young teenager. But he basically rung the guy and had a few umming and ahhings with him, and the guy agreed to drop the price. It was about 400 to about 350, because he wanted a quick sale. I didn't realise at the time it was very, very suspicious. So the guy agreed. I still didn't have enough money, and my dad says, well, I'll help you out, but you'll have to pay me back. Which I never did. Well, that's kids for you. Anyway, so we drive all the way over there, pick up this 486. Now, when we got it, it was very, very... The PC unit itself, it was desktop tower, it looked fine on its own, but the monitor had looked like it had been thrown down a set of stairs and had a massive crack down the side on the back, and the guy just says, oh no, it just fell off the tabletop. But I mean, I had it for years, and it was a massive, massive monitor. I think about 16 or 17 inches or something. It might have been 15, sorry. But as I got this home and I started to use it more and more, I was very, very suspicious. It's almost as if it had been rolled down a set of stairs. And when we picked it up from the area, it was in this really, real, and I mean proper rough council estate. I think it was in the middle of a place called Moss Side, which at the time where we picked up had a terrible reputation for all sorts going on. But well, it wasn't security marked, so we had no idea if it had been pinched or stolen from some poor bugger. He just had no clue. But anyway, took it home and it became mine. And what then carried on is I started fumbling away with DOS. In fact, it must have been late 94. I mean, I only remember because about a year later, there was a Windows 95 demo came out on it was Maxim magazine, which I was quite excited to get at the time because there'd been nothing like this before, and you can install this operating system on. So, which I did do, and then I later bought it for about 90 quid. But again, it was very, very expensive for the time. But anyway, once I got it home, I was playing things like Flashback and all these DOS games. It was absolutely filled with DOS games, and whoever had owned it before it, they got this graphical DOS menu, which when you booted the machine, you would have a choice to load between DOS, Windows 3.1, or this creative menu. And the creative menu had these there's 6 tiles on each screen, and it'd be like a picture of a game. And there was Rise of the Triads on there. I'm scraping the memory on that. I think it was Star Trek Judgment Rights or the graphic adventure. It might have been the 25th anniversary. Anyway, I was really, there were amazing games to get for free included in this system. And that just started me love with PCs. So I was absolutely obsessed with it. But the thing is, I never had any money, and I was always constantly struggling along to buy stuff. So, you end up going down the pirate route. And then when I eventually started working, I mean, it must have been about 96 and I had a bit more money. I dragged it into my workplace at the time because I've been talking to the IT guy there. I was only working in office in very, very early days. And I showed him what I had, and he couldn't believe that I'd been playing it was Duke Nukem on it. Because to me, it played fine because I didn't know any different. But when you're looking back at it now, it was actually crawling at about really, really slow with visible frame freezing as you were going along. But I was just used to it because, And anyway, he says, bloody hell. He says, you need something better. And he says, why don't you go for the Pentium or something? And I said, well, I'd only just started work. I had no money. And the guy says, he says, we've got some old PCs. I think we've got some Pentium processors. He says, if you come back in about a week, I'll do you a deal, and we'll see if we can come up with something. And I think for about 90 quid, he stuck another motherboard in my PC and this decent processor, which he'd taken from the workplace. And I got a massive, massive boost at the time. So big thanks to him. I bought him a crate of beer as a thank you because he actually let me off half the money. So very, very lucky at the time. And that just went on into the craze of playing lots and lots of games as the years went by. But I've always been into PCs. I've always been a PC gamer. There's a period where I was getting annoyed. I think it was the whole Windows 8 period, and I really didn't like it as an operating system. And then I started looking at Macs, and then I picked a Mac up for a bit, but didn't carry on with it. But PC is always been where it's at, and it's very entertaining system. There's so much hidden away and tucked away in it. I mean, I can remember when I first bought a Voodoo 2 card. I mean, in the retro PC I've got recently, there's already one included in it, but you know, I bought one of them brand new, and it probably cost me an absolute fortune at the time. And I knew nothing really about the insides of PCs, and I had to go to that guy again at work, and he put one in for me. It's crazy to think. I mean, now, you know, I'm doing that stuff on a regular basis, but I just did not have a clue, and it didn't seem easy, and it was a struggle and all the rest of it. But yeah, so very fond memories there. What about you guys? I mean, everyone has to start somewhere. When about did you get into the whole like PC side of gaming? Was it pre-internet? Was it after? I mean, the internet itself for me was a huge. It was so shocking when I switched over to it, and it must have been about 98, 99. In fact, I'll leave that for another video because it's always entertaining stories to talk about. Anyway, as always, guys, thanks for watching, and please look forward to another video soon.